Hey everybody, the Book Dad here. Welcome back to the channel. And welcome back to the 10th video that I have done as a booktuber. I can't believe it, I'm in the double digits now. The Book Dad channel just keeps rolling along. Alright, so for today, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Now, the other day, as I was uploading a video and looking through the different aspects of YouTube Studio, I realized that there's a portion on there where you can see that other people have mentioned you in their videos. I didn't know this was a thing. I know that you can like mention people in your descriptions or whatever, but I didn't realize that there was a way for you to on your YouTube Studio to figure that out. So I saw that somebody else had tagged me in one of their videos, and this happened to be for a tag video that is going around a little bit right now. And so I liked the idea for it. So I thought, hey, what the heck? I'll do this. I'll do a video for this tag. It was pretty cool. So first off, let me give a big thanks to Emily at mreads25. That's her channel. She's the one that tagged me when she did this video. And this video idea, or this tag idea, came from Rainier Books originally, and so that's who came up with the idea. mreads25 continued it on, and now she's passing it along to me, so now I'll take it and do a video myself on the same idea. And the idea is called 10 Untouched Books Tag, and the purpose of this tag is to take a look around at your bookshelves and see what's on there, and maybe what's been on there for a long time that you haven't read yet. Now, myself as a booktuber, and prior to that as a book reader and book lover all my life, I've always had the issue of having a lot of books and not enough shelf space. I think that's all of our problems, right? In the last video that I did, when I talked about all of the different series that I'm reading all simultaneously right now, that's one of the things that I run into, is that I read so many things at the same time that I rarely have room for them on my shelves. And I find that as I'm reading all these different series, that perhaps sometimes I'm neglecting some other things that have been around sitting on my shelf for who knows how long. What a poor, sad life for some books, right? They sit on our shelves and they're just like, please, please read me. I've been here for years. But, you know, and in the meantime, I'm like, Amazon, buy, all these new books. And let's do another book haul video, buy all these new books. And then, meanwhile, this other poor book is just like, you know, single tear trickling down its spine. So I like the idea of this tag. This is an interesting idea for me. So this is the 10 Untouched Books tag, and what the idea is to find 10 books on your shelves that you haven't read yet, that have been on your shelves for at least a year or longer. And so, you know, the idea, I guess, or purpose of this tag, of this video, is to take a look back at your shelves, you know, remember those poor books that have been sitting up there for years, just waiting for the day that they would be picked off of the shelf and read. So I thought this was a cool thing, and a big thank you to Emily at mreads25 for tagging me. And I thought that in my description, I'll also tag several other booktubers and pass the idea along to them if they want to use it. And what I thought, I just basically looked around BookTube for pretty brand new booktubers like myself, people that have only been around for a couple of months or less. And so give love to all of these new booktubers that are putting themselves out there and trying to make videos and share their love and passion of books. So let's pass the love on to them too. Okay, so now first off, my first book in the 10 Untouched Books tag that I pulled off of my shelf is the oldest book that I own as far as when it was written. This is Don Quixote, written by Miguel de Cervantes. And this was written back all the way in 1615. It's widely considered by many to be the first modern novel. And of course, famous, everybody knows about Don Quixote. But it's been sitting on my shelf for not that long, a little over a year on this one. But it's one that I've always wanted to get to. And I've also been interested in it because I happen to speak Spanish. Now, I'm not going to read the Spanish language version. That might be a bridge too far with the ancient Spanish in there. But one of the things that I find with foreign books is to always try and research and figure out who has done the best translation on those books. And I think many have been talking about this particular version, which was translated by Edith Grossman. And it's a fairly new version of Don Quixote. And so it's supposed to be really, really good. And I'm really interested to read it and hear about the adventures of Don Quixote and find out really, to me, the thing that I'm most interested in reading this particular book is to see what a book is like that was written in the 17th century, in 1615. That's crazy, right? I suppose we've all read Shakespeare and things like that from around that same time period, or I guess maybe a little bit later. But as far as a full-blown novel from that time period, to see how it compares and stacks up to modern novels, it'd be something really interesting for me to figure out. So Don Quixote, that's the first one on my list of untouched books. Now, the second book on this list for me is S, written by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. This is a very interesting book. Now, J.J. Abrams, back when this was written, the thing he was most famous for probably was Lost, the TV show, which I was obsessed with back in the day. I watched the whole thing as it came out, and then afterwards, when I got married, me and Bookwife watched the whole thing again on DVD. And when we were watching it, this was back probably about 11 to 12 years ago. We were watching the series, and I heard about this book, I believe, from Book Brother. I got two Book Brothers. Book Brother the Elder, because he's obsessed with Lost as well, and loves J.J. Abrams. And so I think he told me about this book that had come out, and I was like, really? A book by J.J. Abrams? So I was like, okay. So I bought it, and there it has been sitting on my shelf since then. Now, you can see I did break the seal on it, so I have actually taken the book out, but that's about it. So this is a very interesting book because, as you know, Lost, if you've seen the show, very full of mystery and intrigue, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And J.J. Abrams sort of had that hallmark early on in his career. And this book is kind of an example of that. Like, the book, right, is called S, but then you have this book here called Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. What the heck, right? So, and it's got like the little library thing here, and then inside of it, it has all of these little bits and pieces. Like, there's a postcard, like another postcard in here. There's different bits and pieces, like a picture, like a photograph that's in there. Whoops, there goes another book, another postcard. But you look on the inside, it's got all of these notes along like the margins, and a piece of newspaper in there. It's a whole mystery. Like, this thing is a whole mystery that is, I don't even know really the full story of it, because it sounds kind of confusing when you're trying to figure out what the heck it is. But that's sort of the idea, is to figure out like what it's about. Like, it's about, I guess, two people that are that wrote notes in the margins of this fictional book, within the story, and so yeah, it's kind of Inception-y, right? But that's sort of like what J.J. Abrams did with the TV show Lost, right? There are all these things going on. You didn't know how they connect or what was going on exactly. You're trying to figure it out. So very mysterious. Really cool idea. Really cool concept. But I just never got. I just never read it. It's been on my shelf this whole time. So for sure, got to soon get to this book. All right. Now, next on this list for me is this is a collection of the books, but the first book in the Vampire Chronicles series by Anne Rice, Interview with the Vampire. Now, this book is Bookwife's. She had this one for many years, but it's been sitting on her shelf forever, and I've never taken the chance to read it, and I've always wanted to. When it comes to vampire stories, the first one I read was Bram Stoker's Dracula back when I was in high school. And I really kind of got into that idea of vampires and all of that, and read a few other books. There was a series called Ravenloft that I read a couple of those books as well, similar to Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, like the Dungeons and Dragons type books that they had back then. It was like a horror version, I guess, of Dungeons and Dragons. But Interview with the Vampire, probably one of the most famous back in the day. Never got to it, never read it. And so that's one that I'm interested in. Of course, Bookwife is obsessed with the Twilight series, or at least was. I guess she still is. So I've never read those ones either. But this is like the well, not the original. I guess Dracula is the original, but this is sort of like the original modern version of the vampire story by Anne Rice. And so I know there's a series out now on Netflix, and Emily on M Reads 25 also mentioned this as one of the books that she had on her untouched list. So that reminded me that I have it on my shelf too, and I wanted to read it as well. So, Interview with the Vampire. And now, next book on the list, I themed this video based on this book. It's Hawaii by James A. Michener. And I got my Hawaiian shirt on. Well, one of my many Hawaiian shirts. I love Hawaiian shirts. I don't know why. At some point, I just decided that I loved Hawaiian shirts, and now I got a ton of them. But Hawaii, the book by James A. Michener. This was gifted to me one Christmas, along with two other Michener novels. And James A. Michener is famous for writing these really big, chunky, historical fiction novels. And usually they're themed around a specific state or specific place, right? So this one is all about Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands. There's another one about Texas, and one about Alaska, and one about Colorado that's called Centennial, I believe. And so James A. Michener is was a very famous author. These are all older books. I think this one was actually written in the 50s. But James Michener has won the Pulitzer Prize at one point in his career, so he's been recognized as a very good writer. And apparently these stories take place over hundreds and sometimes even thousands of years over the course of the history of whatever this place is. So in the Hawaiian Islands, I think it starts off with the actual formation of the Hawaiian Islands from the volcanoes, and then goes throughout history what happened there, how people arrived on the islands, and then when Christian missionaries came to the islands and converted many of them, and then continues on forward from there. And it just gives this long story of this place, and just an interesting idea to me. I always want to learn more about different places that I think are cool. And Hawaii is one of those places. I've never been to Hawaii, so maybe someday. But until then, I've got this novel to tide me over. So James A. Michener's Hawaii, another book for my shelves that has been there for a while, and that I need to get to. All right, the next book that I have here, a very small book, very thin and skinny. This is Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know if you can see from the spine there, probably not, but by Truman Capote. And Breakfast at Tiffany's, of course, is most famous for the movie that stars Audrey Hepburn, but I've never read the book, and it's been on our shelf forever. Now, I have read another book by Truman Capote called In Cold Blood, and that is one of his, I don't know, that might be his most famous novel. It's kind of one of the original true crime stories where he literally researched the actual perpetrators of a crime that were in jail for murder and talked to them and wrote this whole account of it, and it almost sounds like a fiction story the way that it's written, but it's just beautiful. He is an amazing writer. I was just really taken in by that story and just impressed with his beautiful use of the language. And so Breakfast at Tiffany's is basically a short story or a novella. I don't know. It's only got about 100 pages. And then in this version, you have Breakfast at Tiffany's, a short novel, and 3 stories. So it contains a few other short stories by Truman Capote. So another one that should be easy to get through very quickly and see if what I loved about In Cold Blood translates as well into this story with the writing that he does. So, okay. We're halfway through the list now. Moving on to the next one, we have the Queen of Mystery herself, Agatha Christie, and Then There Were None. This is a very famous book. Many people have read it. Maybe most of you have read it. But when it comes to Agatha Christie, it's hard to find a bigger fan of her than Bookwife. She loves Agatha Christie. She is on an Agatha Christie reading jaunt that has lasted for years, and she is just trying to go through every single one of them. And this one is one that I haven't read. And when it comes to me, I have only read one other Agatha Christie book, and that was Murder on the Orient Express, which I really liked. It was a good one. But this is supposed to be a good one too, and this is a standalone. This Agatha Christie basically has 2 big ongoing series, the Hercule Poirot detective stories and the Mrs. Marple detective stories. Murder on the Orient Express was a Poirot book, but this one is neither of those. This is just a standalone mystery by itself, and this previously published as 10 Little Indians, but now I guess it's called And Then There Were None, and I want to see what it's about. We've had it for several years on our shelf, and so I'd like to read this and then talk about it with Bookwife and see what she thought of it. Okay, next from our shelves is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, this was a very popular book, I know, just a few years ago on BookTube and on Goodreads. Just everybody was going crazy about The Midnight Library, and I, of course, heard about it, just from the massive publicity that it was getting, but I didn't really know what it was about, or it seemed like it was sort of fantasy related, or at least fantasy adjacent, maybe possibly a little bit of magical realism, not really sure. But I actually found this in one of those little public book library houses that some people have, like on their lawns, or are in front of businesses where you can just take a book and or put books in there for other people to take and read. So I got this from that one, but it was like 3 years ago, I think, and I just haven't read it yet. Bookwife read it, but I haven't read it yet, and so I'm very interested to see what it's about, see what all the hype was about, and if it was merited. And I think it sounds really interesting. I know it has something to do with death and maybe sort of like the way that you lived your life and the choices that you made. So that all sounds very cool to me. Thinking about whether you would make certain choices if you could go back or something like that. So I'm interested to read this and again see if it was worth all the hype that it got. But Yeah, Midnight Library. And it's a short book, standalone as well, not part of a series. So it's something I could get through really quickly, probably in a couple of days. So hopefully we'll get to this one soon, and it'll no longer be untouched. Okay, now the next book that I have, I've had this one, I don't know, I've had this one for probably a good 8, 9 years, maybe 10 years now, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. But this is uh, Guests of the Ayatollah by Mark Bowden. Now, this and the subtitle here, The Iran Hostage Crisis, the First Battle in America's War with Militant Islam. So for me, those of you that don't know, I haven't really shared this yet, but when I went to college, it was for a Middle Eastern studies degree. And so I, of course, as well with my time in the Army, was doing things related to that. And so I was always very interested in books that were about terrorism and Islam and the Middle East and the history that goes along with all of that. And so this is a very interesting event that happened back in the late 70s, early 80s, the Iran hostage crisis that began in the term of President Carter and then went on through the first term of President Reagan. And just an incredible story. If you think about it, this was crazy when it happened. Now, technically, I was alive for this, but I was a baby, so I don't really remember. But those that lived through it, tell me in the comments what you remember about this in the news. Was it, as crazy as it sounds? Like, I can't imagine, like, today, obviously, we've had certainly the crazy big news or whatever, 9/11 and all of the things that have happened as a result of that. But this is another similar event to that, right? You have an entire U.S. embassy in Tehran, the capital of Iran, gets overrun, and 60 something Americans were taken hostage and held hostage for over a year there. Like, that's crazy. Like, that kind of thing just doesn't happen anymore. So very interesting to read the story and the history of that event and to become familiarized with it. And this is just one of the things that it's super interesting to read about, history books and historical occurrences like this, is to gain that perspective of what things have actually happened in the world. Like, I find that today people think that the stuff that's happening right now is unprecedented, not realizing that things just like that are happening today and probably way worse have happened in the past. And so I think it's important to familiarize ourselves with stuff like that. And it's very interesting to me because of the emphasis that I had on that in the Army and in college. And Mark Bowden is also the author of Black Hawk Down and several other famous books. Killing Pablo, another one by him that I've read, both of those, and just really a really good, meticulous accounting of very interesting historical events. And so this is just another one of those in his bibliography, and very interested to get to this at some point and further familiarize myself with all of the minute details of this event. Something also, a movie, I guess it's been a little while now, but the movie Argo with Ben Affleck that came out a while, I guess it's been a little while now, but was pretty popular at the time. I think won the Academy Award or something, that tells about one of the efforts to free some of the hostages. And so I'll be interested to see if this book talks about that as well. So that one, we got to get that one off of the untouched list. Okay, now this next one is kind of funny. Now for this book, so you know about me, and also Bookwife, we love Mystery Science Theater 3000, the TV show, and what has now become Riff Tracks with the same guys that do the same riffs on modern movies and all kinds of movies and shorts and everything. And I watched this back in the day when I was in high school. That was when I first discovered it, and they had it on the Sci-Fi Channel way back then, which I don't even know if they still have that, but so I watched it back in the day and just loved it. And now the guys that were doing those jokes on the show have now all written books of their own. And one of those books is Mike Nelson's Death Rat by Michael J. Nelson. He's one of the main guys from Mystery Science Theater and now on Riff Tracks. And this is an actual fictional novel that he wrote that tells a, well, I won't even get into what it tells because I don't know. And it's, when I read the back cover, it sounds extremely convoluted, but hilarious. And so Mike Nelson is one of the funniest guys, I think, and just has this really cheesy, hilarious sense of humor that, of course, permeates, the Mystery Science Theater show, and then hopefully also this book. I've read, he's written 2 other books that are more a collection of essays about certain topics or certain movies. So it's almost like a book version of Mystery Science Theater. But those are hilarious. So yeah, I'm hoping that this one is also hilarious like that. I'll read one thing. On the back here, there's a little blurb from Kirkus Reviews that says, "From someplace in Minnesota comes a Nelson funnier than Ozzy, Ricky, Lord, or half." So that's just gives you an idea of the kind of humor that is found in this book, probably. So yeah, Death Rat. It's been. I'm pretty sure I gave this as a present to a bookwife many years ago, probably 5 to 10 years ago, and she read it and she loves it. But I never got around to reading it myself, so it's been untouched by me, and so it's time to rectify that. Mike Nelson's Death Rat. Looks hilarious. All right. We got to the end of the list here. We got one more book, one more untouched book. And this book has the distinction of being the longest member of this tagged list. It has been the longest untouched book that I own. And that's saying something. Now, I bought this book for the first time back in somewhere around 1995. Remember those good old days back when we were all wearing flannel and listening to grunge music? And going to bookstores to buy the latest epic fantasy novels like The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the first book in the Wheel of Time series. Now, of course, this book, everybody knows it's super famous. It's one of the most famous fantasy books and book series that's out there, famously finished by Brandon Sanderson, and now has its own TV show, which unfortunately just got canceled, apparently, from what I hear, right when it was getting good. I haven't watched it because I don't want to spoil the books before I read them. So yeah, Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World. This is the original copy that I bought back in 1995-ish or so. And you can tell that because if you remember back in the day, they used to put the price of the books like right on the cover, or sometimes, right here on the spine. So just to prove it, this is $5.99. Can you believe it? This thing only cost $5.99, and that was even a little bit expensive back then. I remember books. I would go to a bookstore and with $5 and be able to buy a book with that. Like the books were $4.50, and so. But yeah, $5.99. And now I have since received this same book in this version right here. This newer version. I guess it's got the covers from the Wheel of Time series or whatever. And so this Wheel of Time book, or the Eye of the World, let's see, this one, $10.99. Can you believe it? It goes from $5.99 to $10.99. Inflation, it's killing us. But yeah, so the Eye of the World is definitely the book that has been the longest untouched book on my shelf. I bought it way back when I was buying the Dragonlance books and the Shannara books by Terry Brooks and other things. And again, you can tell the age of this copy because it's got a quote by Piers Anthony on the cover. I bet they don't have that one in there anymore. Whew. Yikes. So yeah, like this was the original copy that I had, and it just sat there on my shelf forever. It looked awesome, and I remember going to the bookstores back then and perusing the fantasy section and seeing all the various new Wheel of Time books as they came out, and they had those awesome cover, the cover art, and just thinking, oh yeah, those would be really cool. I'm like, yeah, I still have that on my shelf, but I just never got it. I just never read it. I don't know. I don't know if I was intimidated by the size of it. It's like 800 plus pages, or what. But I never got around to it. And of course, now I've got a lot of chunky books under my belt, so it's time to start the Wheel of Time. And time to start the Wheel of Time. Yeah. Okay. So I'm probably going to start this series, I'm guessing next year. It'll be soon, I promise. And I will definitely do videos on all of these because this is one of the most famous series out there in fantasy world. But I wanted to finish the Cosmere stuff first with Stormlight Archive and some of the Secret Project books. And then once I finished those, then I figured I'll move into Wheel of Time so that I'll have some more Brandon Sanderson books eventually to read once I get to the end of that, to fill that void once I finish all of the current Brandon Sanderson books out there. So yeah, Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, Eye of the World. So hey, those are my 10 untouched books on my shelf that I literally pulled off my shelves this morning. And so let me know in the comments, what are some of the books that you have had on your shelves forever? Can any of you beat my record? A book on your shelf for 30 years without having read it? That's a pretty tall order. But yeah, let me know. And let me know what some of the books are that you're reading that you have had for a while and you just got to them and are so happy that you read them now. Was it worth the wait? Let me know in the comments. And make sure, again, that you like and subscribe to these videos and to my channel. I'm so glad to have you here. Again, a big thank you to Emily at mreads25 for suggesting the book tag. And hopefully all of those of you that I'm tagging in my description will get a good idea for a video for your channels. So thanks for the idea. And until next time, remember to keep reading to your kids every night. All right. See ya.